Hello friends and welcome back to Generation Pixel, and if it's the first time you popped along to the channel, well, you picked a good day to do so because yes, it's pickups day, end of the month, and everything that I've picked up for the collection over the last 4 weeks, well, it's right here and I'm ready to show you all what I've managed to get. Now it will be quite a long one because again I've probably bought more than I should have, and it spans every decade from the 80s until now, so lots of different and interesting things to see hopefully. So if you're interested in seeing what the collection has grown by, well, we'll see you after the titles. So as per the normal format of my pickup videos, what we'll be doing is we'll be starting with the most current games and working our way backwards through time, and as I said, there's plenty of decades to get through this time, so let's get cracking. So for the PlayStation 5 I have picked up the Pathless, an aptly named game because you start on an island and the game pretty much doesn't tell you anything. There's no hand holding whatsoever. You just have to explore and discover everything for yourself. So that was the PlayStation 5. Now moving on to the PlayStation 4, I'm going to bring up 3 games together because I bought them together as one game, and that is FIFA 19, FIFA 18 and FIFA 17. Now I'm not a big sports game fan, but this selection of games from the FIFA franchise have a story mode. It's called The Journey, where you take control of a young upcoming footballer, and you know what, I found an RPG in a FIFA sports game, so I had to buy those 3 just for that. Keeping with the sports theme, and also a theme that's probably going to be prevalent throughout the whole of the pickups, I got Gran Turismo Sports. Now I wasn't overly taken by this when I first got it, hence the reason it's taken this long to pick it up to put it into the collection, but with Gran Turismo 7 on the way, I wanted it in the collection to sit beside the rest of them because it's got to be like that for neatness sake. Now for the VR, I have picked up on the PlayStation 4 Arizona Sunshine. Now this is a fantastic VR game. It's very creepy, it's very survival horror because you don't get a lot of ammunition. You have to take your time, choose your shots wisely. And the last game for the PlayStation 4, well, this is on the recommendation of Eddie at Roller X-Core, and that's Yoku's Island Express. I haven't played it yet, I actually just arrived this morning, so I'm looking forward to this because Eddie really did sing the praises of this game during his recommend 3 games. Now moving on to the PlayStation 3, I've picked up Resistance Fall of Man and Resistance 3. These of course were to go with the Resistance 2 that I picked up last month. Now most of these games that I've picked up for under £3. Most of them come in at 99p actually, which is fantastic value, but I had to pick up these as I had to last month, so this just completes that trilogy quite nicely. Another one that I'm picking up because, you know, the rest of the collection is just about sitting here, and that is Far Cry 2. Now I haven't played Far Cry 2, but I have played Primal and 4 and 3 and 5 and even New Dawn, so looking forward to seeing one of the earlier games in the Far Cry series. Next, again, it's to add to the collection of a series, and that's Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception. Now I've had these games all in the past, and anyone who knows the channel knows that this is a collection that I'm rebuilding after selling multiple times in the past. Now I do have all the Uncharted games digitally, but I want them physically again, so that's 3 back into the physical collection on the PlayStation 3. Same thing for this, it's Assassin's Creed 2, and that finishes the Ezio collection on physical for the PlayStation 3. I do have the Ezio collection that I can play on obviously the PlayStation 4 and 5, but I wanted to get all the physicals back for the PlayStation 3 games that, well, the franchises especially, that I absolutely adore. Next one is a game that I've never owned before, so this will be quite nice. It's Blazing Angels 2, and that's the secret missions of World War II. Now, I recall playing, I think, the first one back in the day and absolutely loving it, but this is the first time I've picked up one for myself, and it's been a while since I've had a dogfighting game, so looking forward to that. Next up, another game that I haven't played or bought before, and that is Brink. So, like I say always, anyone in the comments want to bring my attention to whether I should be buying these games or playing these games or what they think about them, then hit me up in the comments. But Brink has been added because I've never played it before, and that's another driving force behind this collection this time. I want to get the games that I missed out on as much as games that, you know, I want to have that I did have. So with that in mind, I should say, Killzone 3. Now, I haven't really played the Killzones, but it's PlayStation exclusive. Had to get it for the collection because, you know what, nothing says Sony quite like a mid-range first-person shooter that tries to be a Halo killer. So, coming from a Sony pony, I can admit to that quite happily. Now after that, this is a game that it was my son that put me onto this. He quite liked this back in the day, and that is Prototype. So I'm looking forward to getting this on, and I'm going to obviously let him play it first so I can just see how it goes, because never played it, and I do like to see a professional play it first. Next game up for the PlayStation 3 we have is Saboteur, the sort of GTA set in World War II in Paris. Now this game has been raved about by many people, so it's been one that's been on my radar for a while, and as I said, this cost no more than a couple of pounds, so it was well worth picking up in my opinion. Next one again is to complete a series, and that is Metal Gear, and this one's Rising Revengeance. So I haven't played this one. Obviously played the old classic Metal Gear Solids and the much newer Metal Gear Solids, but this is one that skipped me past, so I'm looking forward to giving that a try. Now, something special that I did pick up for the PlayStation 3, one of the games I actually spent a little bit more money on, I've got my hands on the Puppeteer. Now, of course, everyone knows this game is one on a list of maybe 10 or 15 games that the price is shooting through the roof for the PlayStation 3. So when I saw it at the price that I saw it at, I had to pick it up, and quite happy to have that in the collection at the moment. And the last game for the PlayStation 3, well, it's not for me, it's Ratchet & Clank, A Quest for Booty, and this will be going to, well, one of my North American viewers. Don't know which one yet, but to celebrate the fact that I've just managed to break 300 subs, I'm going to be running a little contest, so one of you North American viewers out there will have the opportunity to win this, because this wasn't available in physical form over there, and this is the PAL version, which will work on your PlayStation 3 because it's not region locked, but it's a UK PAL region, so going to be no language barriers there. And that is the last of the PlayStation 3 games. Now, you're probably going to expect me to move straight on to the PlayStation 2 at this point, which is meant to be the focus of the collection at the moment, but no, I'm going to deal with the Nintendo pickups first. So with that in mind, let's start with Legends of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole, and for the DS. Now, this is my first ever DS game. It was almost a joke purchase by my better half, and if you watch the better half box, you'll notice that she's done this a couple of times. But anyway, first DS game, Legends of the Guardians. It got a horrible review in Metacritics, but hey, never mind that so much. Moving on to the Wii, I picked up this, which is Punch Time Explosion, Cartoon Network. Now, not that I'm a big fan of the Cartoon Network, but it did have this chap on it here, that being Johnny Bravo, and he was somewhat of a hero to me in my 20s, so had to pick this up when I saw it for the measly price of £1, so that went into the collection. Plus, I don't show enough love to the Wii, so Next up, GameCube, and to start with the GameCube we have Star Wars Jedi Outcast, so that's Jedi Knight 2. It's lovely condition, nice complete, haven't played it yet but will get round to this. I do love my Star Wars, as many people who watch the channel will know, which leads on next to this, which is a Star Wars Rebel Strike game exclusive. Now apparently it's a limited edition preview disc, but I've been told it's a full game, and also that it has in here some sort of Star Wars arcade game port, so I'm looking forward to getting this on and finding out exactly what's on this disc. Either way, it's an interesting item and I'm happy to have it in the collection. And the last one for Nintendo is another GameCube game, and it's Die Hard Vendetta. This one not complete, but hey, it's a Die Hard game. I'll give it a try. If I like it, I'm sure I can pick up the manual at some point. And that of course brings us to the end of that, and so of course we'll be moving on to the PlayStation 2 now, which is supposed to be the main focus of the collection at the moment, but you know what it's like. If I see something shiny somewhere else, I'm just going to run and get it. But PlayStation 2, probably the most in terms of volume, and I did mention that there may be a theme earlier on, and we will start with Tokyo Extreme Racing. Now, I haven't played this, I'm not a big fan of arcade racers, so I don't know if any of the games that I'm about to show from this pile are in fact simulation racing games or just purely arcade, but either way I wanted them for the collection. So next we had Forza Racing 2, so another racer there to get stuck into. After that, World Rally Championship 3 also, and this probably is maybe less arcadey, so I'm looking forward to that one just a tad more. After that, Ridge Racer 5. Now of course Ridge Racer and PlayStation, you've got to have the collection, so even if I wasn't going to buy any arcade racers, the Ridge Racer games will all be in the collection at least at some point. Now also car related but not racing related, Starsky and Hutch. Now I loved this show as a kid back in the late 70s and early 80s when I watched it, and had to buy it. I know it's a bad game, or at least it gets a lot of criticism, but you know what, it's Starsky and Hutch, let's give it a go. Next up, Cell Damage Overdrive. Now this much more cartoony, much more battle kart maybe, so multiplayer, so might get to play the kids as well in this one, so quite happy to pick up that one because they do like a racer every now and again. And a classic car game, we have Crazy Taxi. Again, this is a fantastic game, I don't care what anyone says. You know, it's probably better on other systems, but the PlayStation 2 is the main collection at the moment, so that's obviously what I'm going to buy it for. Of another theme that sort of ran through what I've managed to pick up. Now it's not that I've went out my way to pick up these, I have just found these out in the wild for extremely low prices, and we're going to go a bit Armed Forces and start with Army Men Real Time Strategy. And as someone said to me earlier, I believe it was Nate at the Retro Shack, didn't realise that the Army Men had any PlayStation 2 titles, but there we go, there's one of them right there. After that we have Commandos Strike Force, a game I know nothing much about, but you know what, I'll give it a go, find out if it's any good. At the very least it just bulks up the collection. Next, Seek and Destroy. All out, no compromise, war has been declared, choose your weapon. So again, as we see, there's an Armed Forces theme happening with this bundle. Now to be fair, picking up these in charity shops, or what you might call a thrift shop in North America, someone's probably come in with a whole collection of these, and as much as I'm sad that they've let it go, I'm glad that it's came here, because now we have Panzer Elite Action and Fields of Glory, another war strategy game, and looking forward to popping that in and giving it a spin before it goes up into the shelf for forever. Now we'll move on to fighting games. I'm not a big fighting game fan, but I do have children who love the fighting games, so I'm going to get them to play some of the earlier stuff, and unfortunately they're going to have to play Fighting Fury, which, if going by the box art, it's like that. It's going to be truly awful, but it's still a PlayStation 2 game. It's still an early PlayStation 2 game, and it needs to be in the collection, so we'll have a look at that a bit later. Now, from one that was awful, or at least awful looking, to one that gets critical acclaim, and that's Soul Calibur 2. Looking forward to getting that one, and I haven't played any of the Soul Calibur games, mainly because the fighting games, the one-on-one fighting games, or even the brawlers, are not exactly in my wheelhouse. But building the collection, they need to be there, so I had to pick it up, especially for 99p. And then we have Dynasty Warriors 4. Again, no experience with the Dynasty Warriors series, but they need to be in the collection, and getting them for under £1, there was no option but to pick it up. And then last on, well, it's not Armed Forces this one, we have Air Ranger Rescue Helicopter. Yeah, this one looks truly awful. You'll see some of the screenshots, but you know what? It was also under £1. This one was 50p. It was £0.50. So I wasn't going to knock it back for £0.50. 50p of anyone's money. Now, moving on to slightly more interesting games, or games that I'm more interested in playing. We have Haven Call of the King. Again, haven't played it, and part of the drive not only being PlayStation 2, but games that I haven't played that I should have got round to back when they were released. So Haven Call of the King. We have Superman Returns, because I am truly interested to see if they can make a Superman game that is worthwhile playing as a game. And we have Ty, the Tasmanian Tiger Bush Rescue. Cartoony, maybe it looks kind of platformy, maybe Crash Bandicoot-esque. I'll give it a go. Haven't played it, but it's one that it does the rounds a lot, and he's a nice little character, so he's in the collection now. Now, another game that I bought, which I've had before on the Wii, or I might still have on the Wii, is Rayman Raving Rabbids. And it's just a fun little game. It's a fun little party game, and it will entertain the kids if nothing else. Now, one that I did pick up that you might be surprised is Ben 10 Protector of Earth. Now, the reason I picked this up is because when my kids were watching a lot of early morning cartoon shows, Ben 10 was one of the few that I absolutely adored watching with them, so I'm interested to see how it translates to a video game. Next, we have Nightfire 007. It's a Bond game, and not only collecting for the PlayStation 2, collecting for, well, the PlayStation and other systems as well, of course. And if you have one Bond game, you've got to get them all, and I'm starting to put together the Bond subset, which will run across different or various systems. Now, the next one I picked up, this was Drinking Games with Josh, who forced me into buying this. It's the Capcom Classics collection, and the reason I bought it is he went on about Gunsmoke, an old arcade game, a game that I played in the arcade. Well, he played it for the first time on his NES, his Nintendo, and he loved it and recommended it. And I got a nostalgia trip and jumped online, jumped onto eBay, got the first compilation that had Gunsmoke for the PlayStation 2 and picked it up. So I have played the Gunsmoke on that, and it is still just as hard as I remember from back in the arcade days. Also picked up, it's a platinum copy, but that doesn't bother me at all. I don't mind platinums, I'm not OCD about that. But it's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, where I started my Tony Hawk's love for the games anyway. It was where my journey started on this style of game. Didn't want it at the time, got it as part of a bundle and absolutely loved it. Now, I do have it in the GameCube already, but the PlayStation 2, well, not only collecting for the PlayStation 2, but that's where I started with the Tony Hawk's games. Next up is a Ghost Hunter, which is a game that's been recommended by many people, including Geordie Slasher Gamer and Nate over at Game Shack. They have recommended Ghost Hunter as a great, well, dare I say, hidden gem, so I'm looking forward to giving this one a bash at some point. Now, quite aptly so, I've got the Sonic Mega Collection Plus for the PlayStation 2, and aptly because, well, Sonic has just turned 30 years old, so that was nice to see. And next we have Tomb Raider Underworld. Now I have this for the PlayStation 3, but I had to pick it up for the 2 because I want them all. I want all the Tomb Raiders and I want them all in the collection ASAP. After that we have Kingdom Hearts 2. Now the Kingdom Hearts games I haven't played at all. I need to play them, and I'm going to start playing them on the PlayStation 2, which might be silly because obviously the remasters or the remakes or whatever that we've got now on the PlayStation 4 and 5 will probably be smoother and better, but you know what, I like to see where things started, so I'll go back to that. Next up, the penultimate game is Half-Life, a game I haven't played. Now I have a history with first person shooters. They gave me motion sickness back in the day, and that's the reason that I missed out on Half-Life. And it's a landmark game, it's a very important game in the history of video games, so I had to pick it up. And again, it wasn't expensive, so it's in the collection now, and hopefully I'll get round to playing some Half-Life. And the last game for the PlayStation 2 this month, we have Soul Reaver 2. And of course, the only reason I bought Soul Reaver 2 is, well, it's Soul Reaver 2, and if you haven't played the Legacy Arcane games, then just go out there, pick them up and start playing them, because this is a fantastic series of games, fantastic character, great stories, and just get it played. That's all I can say about that. So moving on to the 90s, and the 90s for me, or at least the mid 90s and later on, was the PlayStation, and I've picked up Army Men Air Attack. That'll go nicely with the Army Men real-time strategy that I picked up for the PlayStation 2, and it was cheap again. It was just a couple of pounds for that one, so happy to have it in the collection. Next up, another racing game, probably an arcade racing game. I think I played V-Rally back in the day. I think it's probably an arcade racer. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, of course, because I don't remember a great deal, which tends to mean that it wasn't like Gran Turismo, which was a game that I adored, and a series of course that I adored. So we have V-Rally for the PlayStation. Next up we have skateboarding for the PlayStation. Now the only skateboarding games I ever played in the PlayStation were Tony Hawk, and it wasn't until Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 on the PlayStation 2 that I started, so this will be the very first skateboarding game that I'll get to play on an original PlayStation, so looking forward to that before I try Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Pro Skater 2, which I assume will be a lot better than this one, but I'll give it a go. Next we have International Superstar Soccer Pro. I do remember playing these games back in the day, because football games were the party games with your friends, especially in the mid 90s with the early FIFAs, the International Superstar Soccer and PES and the likes. Next up we have In Cold Blood, which came from the Play It Forward box. It's a game that I'm looking forward to play. A few of the fellow tubers out there have said, yeah, it's well worth the play and I should get it in as soon as possible, so looking forward to that one. The penultimate game of the PlayStation 1 pickups, we have Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, the first one to go with obviously Soul Reaver 2, which was out in the PlayStation 2, so that's two of them into the collection. And yes, I know there's a lot of people who are going to say it's a Ricochet edition, but you know what, that stuff doesn't bother me. I'm a gamer before a collector, and as long as I have the game and in its physical form in whatever way that is good enough for me. I'm not too picky when it comes to that. I do like them to be complete, however. And last for the PlayStation, Alien Trilogy, the game that, well, this is a game that let me know that first person shooters gave me motion sickness and I couldn't play them for such a long time. In fact, Destiny, the first Destiny game, round about when the Taken King came out, that's when I first was able to get back into first person shooters. Now I don't know if it's the frame rates of these games that throw me off, make me throw up, but whatever it was at the time, I just couldn't play more than 20 minutes of these games without having to stop and feel awful for the rest of the day. Happy to get it back into the collection. It was one of the first games I ever had for the PlayStation, so it's in the collection, and I will give it a try just to see if I still get motion sickness playing Alien Trilogy. And if I recall rightly, the cheat was I got pink acid boots on, and I'll see if I can remember how to write that properly, as it was done in numbers as well as letters. So there we go, Alien Trilogy, the last of the PlayStation pickups. But staying with the 90s, we'll move on to some of the PC games I picked up now. I would love to collect big box PC games, but I just don't have the room for them. So it's DVD cases for me and PC gaming. But I still love my PC gaming, and I picked up Civ 3, Civilization 3. I love the Civilization games. I've loved them since the very first one, no matter how basic that was when you think back on it. And I can't wait to start playing this one again, because nothing says 90s to me like Civ games or sim games. So next up, again, real-time strategy type games, and we have Age of Mythology, and this is the gold edition with, I forget what was the other one, it was Titans as well, so there was extra DLC in this DLC. I don't think we called it DLC back then, no. Wasn't the internet to download any content, but yeah, expansion packs, a nice expansion pack, so once you finish your game there was always more to go on and play. The good old days before the internet ruined gaming, let me tell you. So next, after my rant, we have Age of Empires, and this has obviously Age of Empires 2 and 2 expansion packs, one for each of them, so can't wait to get back into that. And again, yes, you can get these on the console, but honestly, the real-time strategy games and the like, they're so much easier to play on a PC with a mouse and a keyboard. Other than that, if you can only play it on a console, definitely play Age of Empires, such a wonderful game. And the last game for the PC that I picked up, an absolute classic, LucasArts Grim Fandango, probably the last really great game of this era and style. Now, if you haven't played Grim Fandango, it's a point and click adventure, so Tommy from Dad and Lads Gaming has just switched straight off again, but it's wonderful. The script writing's fantastic, the humour's amazing, the art style's wonderful. I can't recommend LucasArts point and click games enough, but it's not to everyone's taste, to understand that. And probably the last item from the 90s, we have a Tiger Frogger game, handheld. Wonderful little device where you control your frog's jumps by pulling his legs, and left and right by 2 buttons up there. It's even tougher than the arcade Frogger, so I don't recommend this for beginners, but this is my new best friend in the handheld gaming collection. So moving now into the late 80s and the early 90s, I have managed to pick myself up a new system. I have decided, well, a new old system, because I pulled the trigger and decided to get myself a Mega Drive again, or a Genesis, depending on where you are in the world, and it's one of the original ones, the high definition graphic stereo sound emblazoned across the top there. And so happy to get this. This was the console that took me away from microcomputing gaming, and also kept me console gaming while I was getting more interested in PC gaming. So the Mega Drive or Genesis has a special place in my gaming history. Now, of course, to go with the Mega Drive, I had to pick up some games, and I started with, well, the first game I ever played on the Mega Drive, and that was a Sonic the Hedgehog, the classic Sonic the Hedgehog, back in 1991. Yep, 30 years old now, so he's lasted some time. And to go with that, of course, Sonic 2, which was a complete improvement on Sonic. It was lovely to see. It's nice to see any sequel that just takes what was good about or great about a first game and just build on that, and that's what Sonic 2 managed to do with that. And another one, Sonic Spinball, a Sonic game that I haven't played. I didn't play all the Sonic games. I haven't even played Sonic and Knuckles, so but I've managed to pick up this for relatively cheap as well. So another game that I had back in the day I picked up, and this is purely nostalgia and not because the game's great, but the game's, from what I recall, is really hard and quite frustrating. But Echo the Dolphin, it was an important game for me back in the day because it was one of the first games that I had. And back then you played what you had, so Echo, I do remember being extremely frustrated with Echo. A game that I didn't have back in the day but just looks too wonderful not to have, and that's Tailspin. And we all liked a bit of Tailspin. I was probably a bit older than the target market back in the 90s when this obviously came out, both in cartoon form and in the game form. But you know what, you can't beat the classics. Talking about classics, Mortal Kombat 2. So picked up Mortal Kombat 2. I'll need to get myself a 6-button pad because there's no way I'm playing this with the 3-button pad, so this will not be played properly until I can source that. And actually I think I know the chap to talk about, just reminded myself, and he's been on the screen behind us at some point. So next up, Eternal Champions, another fighting game. Never played it back in the day, but it was relatively cheap, so I thought pick this up as well. And once I get the 6-button pad, or at least 2 of them, because these are fun when you're playing with someone else, and we'll have a bit of couch co-op mayhem maybe in the future on the Mega Drive. That might be quite nice. And the last 2 for the Mega Drive, picked up Castle of Illusion Mickey Mouse. It's a beautiful game, there's no doubt about it. It's a wonderful platformer. People love it, and I had to put it in my collection, especially considering the price I managed to get it for. And finally, for the Mega Drive, we have Mickey Mania to go with, obviously, Castle of Illusion, a lovely Blue Spine PAL Mega Drive game. And that was the last of that. No, it wasn't. There was a couple of loose cuts. Now, I'm not going to collect seriously for the Mega Drive, so loose cuts won't bother me too much. And with the loose cuts, I picked up PGA Tour Golf, which my kids have actually thoroughly enjoyed. Actually, they've enjoyed it more than the modern golf games, which I found quite surprising. And we sat and played 18 holes last night, so they must have done something right. I recall them being fantastic and thoroughly enjoyed playing with the kids last night. Road Rash, another EA game with a lovely yellow tab, and everyone knows Road Rash, so it was cheap, it's in the collection. And the last, a multi-cart. Lovely multi-cart, and on it we've got Revenge of Shinobi, Streets of Rage and Golden Axe. 3 classic games, 3 classically brutal games if I remember correctly, but I'll get round to playing these because they're all in one lovely little cart. So that was the last of the Genesis stuff, which brings us to the early 80s and, well, the early 80s machines, because I did pick up some ZX Spectrum stuff, and mostly all through the Play It Forward box, which was a wonderful thing to be involved with, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to. And if you haven't seen the Play It Forward box video, just down there somewhere in the list, just go and have a look at that for yourself. Anyway, let's have a look at the games now. This game here, this is Batman for the ZX Spectrum. It was the last ever game that I bought for a microcomputer, my ZX Spectrum. It was the Plus 3, wasn't this version. I had the disc version back in the day, but this was the last game that I bought for an 8-bit micro before, well, now, later, collecting for reasons other than just buying a game to play. Also in that box I got the wonderful Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, the wonderfully titled and changed titled game because of the British Board of Film Classification, who thought Ninja was way too violent for kids to be exposed to, but that's the original Turtles game, and you'll see some footage of that. You'll see definitely some box art of that to see what it was like. And finally, game wise on the Spectrum, a double box, Pit Fighter and Super Space Invaders. Now, Space Invaders was the first game that I ever played in an arcade way back in 1980, and it's a game that I love because of that, and it's a game that I will never stop love because of that. Obviously you get different versions on different machines, but any version of Space Invaders I can get my hands on, I'll still pick it up. And Pit Fighter, the game that came out before Mortal Kombat, and it was a game that probably paved the way for Mortal Kombat. So it got a special place in history, I think, and people shouldn't forget the wonder that was Pit Fighter when it was originally released. Now that's the last of the games, as I drop the pile on the floor, but that's the last of the games. But I did pick up one more thing for the collection. It came out again, the Play It Forward box, and that is this micro cassette pack for the the Sinclair QL or Quantum Leap, which was to be the next big microcomputer for businesses. But obviously as gamers we knew if it was going to be more powerful, it was going to run better games too, so we were quite interested in that. Now this contains 4 microcassettes, and that's Quill, Abacus, Archive and Easel, and this was the media that they were going to have the software on, or did have the software on, for the Quantum Leap. But that there is the microcassette, and all your programming wonders were on these little diskettes. Tiny little things, so 4 Office utility programs on this. Now again, I don't have a QL, may get one in the future, never know, but this is just a piece of Sinclair history, and the Sinclair brand was such an important one to me back in the day, as the ZX Spectrum was my first machine for gaming at home anyway. So thank you very much for sitting with me through this pickups video. It was probably quite long, but there was a lot to go through. Some of you guys have probably seen bits and pieces of this in other videos due to the Play It Forward box and of course the Better Half box, but I thought I had to make a record of it all for this month, so it was out there and other people could maybe get a chance to see what nonsense I've been buying myself over the month. Thank you again for watching if you made it this far, and if you can give me a thumbs up, that would be wonderful. If you've got anything that you would like to talk about, then just hit me up in the comments. I'm always there to respond to you, at least within 24 hours usually, although the comments are coming in thick and fast, which I truly appreciate. And other than thanking you again, until next time, cheerio.